Hello and welcome to eSchool, brought to you by BusyTech. Today I'm going to give you the first in a series of presentations for Quality Window 5. This one's called a Quick Start, and it introduces you to some of the terms about Quality Window. Let's take a look. First, what is Quality Window and what would you use it for? Well, there's a number of different ways. One, as a statistical process and quality control tool, where you would do things like process and quality audits to make sure that you're making a product or service the same every time and that you're meeting your customers' expectations. That typically is done on a regular time basis, and it would be things like once an hour, once a shift, once a day. Another use of the Quality Window product is for event collection and analysis. Those are things like doing a downtime application, defects, losses. And what you would do with that is when those events happen, you capture as much information about that through a series of quantifying and qualifying those events so that you can analyze and solve those problems. Another good use of Quality Window is what we call the Big Picture Viewer. And what you do with that is you review and analyze data from corporate databases. So you can set up things like a SQL query into your databases and bring that data directly into Quality Window in what we call an on-the-fly application. And review that data, and then when you're done with it, you can discard it. You can always go back and pull that data up from the databases again. Another use is with automation systems where you can collect data from those automation sources and analyze and review them in Quality Window. That'll give you a better understanding of what might be going on behind the scenes in the making of some of your products. Well, when we talk about Quality Window 5, we're going to point you in two directions, and typically they are the Quality Window product itself, and that is the tool that people would use to collect data, add data, analyze and report data. It's the one that displays everything in charts and colorful renditions of the data. So when you look at it, that'll be the Quality Window side. The other side is we call QWAdmin. It's our construction tool. It's the one that you will use to create these things called QW5 applications. We'll talk more about it in a minute. And it's also your rapid change tool. So as quickly as you want to change your applications, the QWAdmin tool will be there to do it and get you back to collecting data out on the floor. Understanding terms again, well, I mentioned Quality Window application. It's actually a specific use for the Quality Window product. In this case, you'll see that we have a number of elements we call variables, and they're in a series here. So we would be collecting data, in this case typically process type data, and we're collecting it in a specific application. I could organize those applications in a number of different ways. So whenever the specifications or target changes for a product, say like in this case chocolate chips 16 ounce, then we would have another application to handle that. So each application is unique to the use that you want to put it to. If it was a downtime application or defects, then I would organize it with a series of questions, typically using these things called pop-ups, to collect that data, but it would have a name like downtime line 18, so that would be the name of the applications. Those names, as you can see for applications, would be displayed in what we call our begin screen for you to be able to pick the right application for you to do the job you want to do. Now these applications, they can be stored on the computer that you are using, or it can be stored out on a network server, which is probably a good way to do it, because then you can share that data with multiple users. You can also organize those applications into things like directories so that you'll see all the line 1 applications or line 2 might be in a directory or organized that way. And it's important to understand that there's also security available for all these applications, so you can limit who adds, edits, and deletes data, and you can turn on transaction logging. There's other eSchool presentations that talk about the security around a Quality Window application. So what makes up a Quality Window application? Well, we talked about it's a specific use. So in this case, let's say it's a monitoring. It could be like monitoring line 6 or monitoring for 16-ounce chocolate chip. That's a Quality Window application for it. But when you look a little deeper, you're going to find out that there's two main files associated with the application. The first is what we call a QWT file, and it contains the definition information, typically things like variable name, what's the size size of the field, type of field, numeric, that type of thing, and what are its specs and targets associated with that variable. They're typically created and changed in the QWAdmin module. Then there's the QWD file. That's where all the data actually gets stored. As you capture the data and enter it, it'll get stored there. There's a number of other files associated with the application, so I'd encourage you to go into the QW5 help system and look for the terms and definitions to get a better understanding of those applications. Now, don't be alarmed that there's more than one file associated with an application. We have a utility called QW File Pack that if you ever wanted to send those applications to us to help you or share them with other people, File Pack will take all of the data and all of the files associated with an application and create a zip file for you to transport it. Understanding our terms, well, we talked about a quality window application. Now, a variable. A variable is a single element in that quality window application. Things like line speed, product, weight, size. Each variable can be defined in a number of different ways, and each of the definitions is different, but typically you'd see things like numeric data. That means it's chartable, it can be displayed in colors, and it would have things that are called specs and targets associated with it. Calculated variables based on a formula. They're also chartable and look a lot like numeric data, but you don't have to enter the data for them. Pop-ups, well, they're typically questions. Things like what shift is it, what product is it, and pop-ups are used to ask those questions. Lookups work with pop-ups, so if I picked a product, I can then display what the size, color, maybe price of the associated items are, so lookups are used for that. And then text is typically comment fields, and I like those because you can collect information about anything people want to say in an application, and a comment field is a great way of doing that, and typically it would be text. Would not have any chartability, so they'd always be displayed in black and never in color. Well, we mentioned the colors. Here's where they come from. So when you see the colors in Quality Window, you'll notice each individual variable here has different colors associated with it. Well, in the admin module, when you create your application, you get to define what the upper and lower specification, control, warning, and target values. And those values, once set, they render the data that you enter into a specific color. So for this red zone, that means that anything entered between 250 and 163 will be displayed in red. So that's where we get all of the colors that you see in Quality Window. They're derived by these limits that you either have set or calculated by Quality Window. There's also these things called views. And what's a view? Well, we talked about an application as a grouping of variables. A view allows you to take the standard look for an application and change it. You could change the order of variables. You could remove some variables. For instance, if I had a production and a quality view, I would want the production people to see certain things and the quality people to see others. I can share variables between them, but views allow me to do it. I can change limits to play what if to see what they look like with new limits. I can also summarize the data. So think of it almost as a reporting tool as well. I can summarize by shift, day, or week. I can also filter data. Go in and get just the A-team data. Or I can create custom outputs or reports. So views is a very useful tool that you'll see more of. Well, this is the end of this presentation, and what I'm doing here is suggesting the next one you want to watch is QW5 Selecting Applications. Notice that I have this icon out in front. That means it's that end user tool, as I call it, the charting tool, the one that you add data to. So you'll see that as a standard through all of our presentations. The rest of the screen is talking about other things that you might want to do viewing our website, especially the self-help blogs, which can be very useful in helping you understand maybe some different ways that you can use Quality Window. Let's move on to the next presentation.